Greetings, everyone. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times for Thursday, December 3, 2020. For today's editorial, Senator Binay should review current laws before proposing new ones. In what was probably a sincere attempt to provide the country with something helpful, Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy Binay has proposed a measure that would create a government body to develop and manage plans for pandemics and other public health emergencies. While we appreciate her efforts, we would appreciate them more if they were directed towards something that hasn't already been done. Binay's Senate Bill 1322 would establish a Pandemic and Other Health Emergency Council, chaired by the Secretary of Health, and including as members the Secretaries of the Departments of the Interior and Local Government, Labor and Employment, Foreign Affairs, Justice, Tourism, Transportation, Trade and Industry, Agriculture, and Budget and Management, as well as the Administrator of the Philippine Overseas Employment Association and the President of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation. The Council would also include 3 additional representatives from the private and health sectors. According to the text of Senate Bill 1322, the Council will be tasked to create a national pandemic and other health emergency plan, which will include provisions for increasing the response capabilities and surge capacity of ambulatory care facilities, dental health facilities, and critical care service systems. The Council will also be responsible for developing a pandemic or public health emergency monitoring program to monitor the presence, magnitude, and progression of any infection and evaluate the adequacy and efficacy of countermeasures. The Council will also be responsible for recommending the declaration of a public health emergency in accordance with medical guidelines and protocols to the President. We see a number of problems with Binay's proposal, the biggest of which is that it almost exactly duplicates the function and responsibilities of an existing body, the by now well-known Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, or the IATF-EID, which was created through Executive Order 168 in 2014, that describes the body's responsibilities to assess, monitor, contain, control, and prevent the spread of any potential epidemic in the Philippines. The IATF-EID, as designed, also includes a much larger number of departments and agencies, ostensibly with the goal of creating the broadest possible strategy in response to a public health threat. Binay's proposed Pandemic and Other Health Emergency Council omits some departments that would seem to be critical to such a response, such as the Department of Finance and the Department of Social Welfare and Development. While the IATF-EID may be a problematic body in some respects, particularly as its scope has expanded far beyond what was originally intended, that original intent was still sensible, as the events of the coronavirus pandemic have largely shown. The function of the IATF-EID to monitor and respond to emerging epidemic threats allows for a flexibility of response. Whether that response has been as effective as it could be is another debate entirely. Binay's proposal, on the other hand, suggests that a more fixed plan should be created, one that could simply be dusted off and put into action when a public health threat emerges, regardless of what that public health threat may be. As the coronavirus has demonstrated, much of the response to it has had to be learned as the pandemic progresses, not due to a lack of preparedness or a government body to manage the response, but more because of the unique and unfamiliar nature of the infection itself. It could be argued that a body as important as the IATF-EID should be a creation of legislation rather than an executive order, and that may be a valid point. If so, however, we would have to ask why the question was not raised during Congress deliberations twice over granting President Duterte emergency powers to direct the pandemic response. The solution to perceived shortcomings in the pandemic response by the IATF-EID, while that pandemic is still very much alive, is to assess and address those shortcomings directly, and not to waste precious time organizing a completely new body and developing a brand new response plan, particularly one that on paper at least would appear to have a lesser capacity than what is currently in place. And that's the editorial for Thursday, December 3, 2020. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and listen to the voice of the Times.